Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. Jean-Paul Sartre. You became what she wanted, slowly, without knowing it. You began as a man, undomesticated, unknowable, alive. You ended as a version of yourself that fit her comfort. You looked into her eyes and abandoned your own. You never read Being and Nothingness. But Sartre's philosophy has shaped your life more than any book. In a Paris lit by war and rebellion, Sartre wrote a sentence every man should inherit at birth. Hell is other people. Not because people are evil, but because in their gaze we lose ourselves. That isn't love. That is bad faith. Sartre's great enemy. The moment you stop being the author of your existence and become a character in someone else's novel, it doesn't matter if you're 20 and chasing her texts or 50 and wondering why your marriage feels like a quiet extinction. The prison's shape is the same. You exist for her instead of for yourself. Hear this. The man who lives for her dies by her indifference. This isn't bitterness. This is metaphysics. Sartre understood consciousness as a void, a nothingness. It has no essence until it chooses. The man who forgets this, who thinks a woman will complete him, define him, redeem him, hands over the steering wheel of his soul. And she feels it. Whether she's 19 and ruled by instinct, or 45 and emotionally intelligent, she knows when you've placed her on the throne of your identity. She knows when your need for her drowns your need to remain true to yourself. That's when she pulls away. Not from cruelty, but because desire cannot survive in captivity. It needs space, risk, freedom. The young man doesn't know this yet. He thinks love is a currency that buys loyalty. He hasn't felt the humiliation of offering everything and watching her eyes wander. But he will. The older man knows. He sits in silence beside a woman who once wanted him. Before he became a predictable echo, before he stopped challenging her reality, before he traded otherness for safety. She doesn't want safe. She wants sovereign. Sartre's shocking truth? The human heart longs for what it cannot possess. The man who doesn't need her, who can walk into her life and just as easily walk out, is the one who makes her confront her own abyss. That confrontation awakens her, not gently, but deeply. You've seen it. The man who says less, gives less, holds his shape when she storms. He doesn't bend, doesn't beg. Somehow he's the one she can't forget. Not because he played games, but because he didn't break the rules of being. You want to be loved. That's human. But the moment you need love to feel like someone, you vanish. This isn't a trick. It's existential integrity. The man who exists first, defines himself first, chooses his values first, and lets love orbit him if it dares. If it doesn't, he's still whole. That's the man women fall for, the rare man, the Sartrean man, the one who remembers freedom's price is solitude, and pays it gladly. You've been told to open up, be vulnerable, express needs, tell her how much she means, yet the more you shared, the more she withdrew. You thought transparency would earn trust, instead it diluted mystery. You became readable, tame, harmless. Why? Sartre was right. The human is a project, not a product. You're not a fixed thing to be admired. You're an unfolding, a becoming. When you reduce yourself to emotions, needs, wounds, you confuse confession with presence. You turn your soul into a plea. You offer depths before she's earned the map. She recoils, not from heartlessness, but because the masculine, in its highest form, isn't a boy begging to be understood. It's a force that exists with or without witness. Sartre called this being for itself. The man who chooses, defines himself, stands in radical freedom. Not recklessness, freedom that says, I will not be a product of your need. I will not collapse into the man you want. I am. That older man at the bar, weathered, calm, disinterested, holds her gaze longer than any gym-sculpted boy. Why? He's paid the price of identity. He lost the woman who left when he stopped chasing, bent until his spine snapped. Try to buy love with consistency. Now he sits in silence, a monument to his survival. He doesn't explain, doesn't overgive. His silence speaks louder than your cleverness. Younger men mistake noise for power. Older men, if they've done the work, understand the deepest gravity is wordless. She feels it, doesn't know why, but in his presence, the man with no compulsion to impress, no anxiety to win, something ancient stirs, a dissonance, a pull, not toward safety, but danger. Not physical danger, but ontological danger, the danger of facing a man who cannot be owned, guilted, reshaped by her insecurity, the danger of seeing someone already whole. She'll test that wholeness, provoke, withdraw, offer chaos dressed as passion to see if you lose footing, if you chase, explain, perform. You collapse from man into mirror, substance into shadow. If you remain unmoved, not to win, but simply be, she feels what Sartre called the anguish of freedom. Your freedom. In that anguish, desire returns, not from manipulation, but because you reminded her of what every woman wants but cannot say. The masculine isn't supposed to bend toward approval. It's the mountain, unmoved. Remember this when tempted to please, fix, explain. She doesn't want a man who needs her to breathe. She wants a man who breathes deeply in her absence. Become that man, not in image, but truth. And she'll feel your gravity. Whether she stays or not, she'll remember you. Men like you aren't common. She knows. There's a moment, subtle, invisible, when a man is about to disappear into her expectation. No warning bell, just a yes when your soul said no. A softened truth to keep her calm. A withheld boundary to avoid her leaving. In that moment you betray your essence. Sartre named it bad faith, lying to yourself to avoid freedom's discomfort. You call it love, noble sacrifice, mature compromise, but you know it's quiet extinction, soft suicide. She notices, always. Even if she can't name it, she feels you vanishing. Your presence orbiting hers, your truth turning negotiable, your adjustments to avoid friction. She grieves not for you, but the man you were, the mystery who made her feel alive, unstable in the best way. Now you're reliable, predictable, safe. You sense the emptiness in her eyes, the touch that doesn't linger, the laughter that feels performative. You say, "But I've done everything right." Exactly. You've done everything right, and become wrong in the only way that matters. You've ceased to be yourself, a ghost of your former power. She didn't fall for your obedience, she fell for your distance, your lack of need, the untamed core you carried before deciding love meant taming yourself. The older man, if honest, admits a painful truth. He doesn't know who he is when she isn't looking. He spent years as provider, protector, dependable partner, forgetting the boy who stared at stars with fire in his chest, the boy who didn't need permission to speak, leave, be. That boy was closer to truth than the man who replaced him. But this isn't despair, it's the doorway. Manhood doesn't shrink with age, it sharpens, burns cleaner. If you stop lying. The lie? That her love is the prize. It's not. The prize is the man who remains whole in love's presence, who doesn't fracture into versions. Trade identity for intimacy. Love her fully without letting her define him. When she senses you're no longer defined by her, she relaxes into being with you. This defies everything you've been taught. Serve, please, pursue. Sartre saw through it. To live authentically, you must be your own meaning. You're condemned to be free, required to choose yourself daily, no matter who walks in or out. If she walks out, let her. If you're the rare man who doesn't collapse into her absence, you were never abandoned. You return to yourself. She may come back, she may not. You remain. You've never been more attractive than when you no longer need to be. That's the paradox, yet few men believe it. Belief requires experience. Most never endure silence long enough, never suffer solitude to the end. They crawl back, apologize for their truth, break under her disapproval. But the man who stays standing, silent when her rage demands explanation, calm when she withdraws affection, rooted when she tests resolve, becomes unforgettable, not because he's playing games, because he refuses to lie. Sartre spoke of authentic existence, a life where a man carries freedom's weight, never pretending to be less than he is. This is masculinity's essence, not performance, but presence, a presence independent of outcome. She feels it. She may not like it. It confronts her with her own freedom, her capacity to choose, the unsettling truth that this man won't collapse to soothe her. Desire returns, not because he chased, because she remembers what it's like to be with a man who doesn't orbit anything. There's no age limit. You could be 70, recalling who you were before giving yourself away. 20, choosing never to surrender again. It begins with small refusals. Not sending that begging text, not pretending okay with what drains you. You're not here to be liked, selected. You're here to become, expand, exist with such force the world leans in, even in stillness. That's the Sartrean legacy. The man who refuses to lie for acceptance, who knows every sacrifice of authenticity costs a piece of his soul. The soul isn't a gamble for love. If she respects you, if she's ready for a man, she won't leave when you reclaim freedom. She'll meet you there, sovereign, choosing you, not because you need her, but because you don't. If she can't, she was never yours. She mirrored your abandonment. Shatter the mirror. Walk forward, not in loneliness, but power. Only in sacred solitude will you meet the man you were meant to be. He's the one she can't leave. You're beginning to understand. It's not detachment for pride, not distance to manipulate. It's truth. The only thing you were meant to serve. The truth. You were never incomplete. That poison myth fed to you the moment you thought, she's what I'm missing. Sartre dismantles, no one completes you. To be complete is to stop becoming. Hand someone that role and you surrender authorship. A man without authorship is no man. You see it in older men's eyes like faded photographs. They speak in half sentences, harmless anecdotes. You feel it. They gave up too much, surrendered their edge, stopped writing their pages. Now they live chapters that don't sound like them. You see it in the young mirroring her values, moods, politics. Underneath, desperation, an invisible leash. She sees it. Rise her desire like wind over flame. The rare man writes his own book, even if no one reads it. The sacred secret Sartre implied. When a man is willing to be alone, he becomes irresistible. Aloneness births authenticity, not loneliness. Chosen solitude, the kind that hammers you into something no one else could forge, burns the noise until your silence is music, makes you enough in your own eyes. When that man speaks, when he gives, he doesn't bind. When he stays freely. When he leaves, he doesn't look back. His presence alters rooms, not from tricks or status, but because he walks belonging to himself. Not every woman will be ready. Most are calibrated to men who fold, emotional acrobatics, strategic compliance. They won't understand a man refusing to be less than real. But some, the right ones, will recognize you not with their minds, but nervous systems. They'll feel safe, not from coddling, but because you won't vanish into expectations. You were told to chase the truth. The more you chase, the more you erase. Let her come as a test. Can you stay whole in love's presence? Hold your course when she cries, pleads, storms. Stay in yourself, not from cruelty, but refusal to lie. If yes, you'll find freedom no romance can match. You'll have yourself. In that self, more than power, peace. You're not who you were when this began. Something shifted. Quiet. Roaring. The deep silence no longer feels like loneliness. It's home. You're not reaching, stretching thin, auditioning love. Now you watch the world revolve around a self uncompromised. This is Sartre's secret, hidden in being and nothingness, buried in every man who's asked the mirror, what am I if not who they want? You are nothing. From nothing, you are everything you choose. No script. Savior. Wrong. Freedom terrifies. Most men run into women, work, wine, war. Anything to avoid authorship's raw truth. But you've chosen otherwise. To carry the weight, be the source, create meaning. This doesn't mean you don't love, feel. It means you don't collapse. You're touched but not reshaped, moved but not removed from center, love from overflow, never emptiness. Now she feels it. Whether 25 or 62, radiant or wounded, she feels something ancient rise, a gravitational pull that doesn't beg, a sovereignty that doesn't shift. Maybe she stays, maybe not. The story's no longer about who stays. You are the story. She reads it or walks. You're not rewritten. This is your arrival. Not at power, dominance, but the holy stillness of a man who remembers what he is. Not a mirror, mask, strategy, plea. He is. The world decides what to do with that. You won't beg, kneel, trade your soul for a touch. You walk forward without witnesses. That's the man they remember, the man she dreams of years later, warm bed but cold spirit. The man who no longer asks what went wrong. He knows. He hadn't arrived in himself yet. Now you have. From here, everything begins. Not chase, strategy, silence. Still, unbreakable, free. Sartre's shocking truth. Women fall for rare men who don't need them. If this woke something in you, stripped a lie, showed a self long forgotten, like share, subscribe, support the channel. This isn't just narration. It's a mirror, a map, a call to the man you've buried. Answer it.